So I got this idea for a shot that I really wanted for this commercial. But the problem was, it was the most complicated and challenging idea for a shot I've had to work on so far. In this video, I'll show you how we were able to achieve a seemingly impossible shot in a commercial I directed for the Lush Hair brand. Now, let's start from the very beginning. The client reached out to 16 Africa, the production house, who then hired me to direct the commercial. So I started off with my research about the brand, and I figured the brand's main color was pink. And instantly I thought to myself that if the brand color is pink, then definitely this has to be like a girly girl commercial, like a girl's girl commercial, right? And when I was making the treatments, I ensured that I played a lot with pink, in my deck, just so I could represent the brand properly. Once the client is going through my treatments, they sort of get a sense of their brand already from the treatments. And yeah, we did justice to pretty much all that was required, in the treatment, from the shot breakdowns to the production design, to the color grades, to the music reference, to lighting references, to the production design. Every single element of the treatment was detailed to the last. When it came down to the most important thing, how we're going to represent the product, I thought to myself that this hair food range that would be showcased in the commercial are made from herbs, the likes of rosemary leaves, hibiscus flowers, and whatnot. And I thought, how can we show the transformation of these herbs from what it looked like in its raw state into the finished product? And then I went straight to frame sets. I started searching for what could possibly inspire that transformation. And then I came across this wonderful shot. It was a shot that showed the transformation of raw products into like a finished seasoning mix, which represented perfectly what I wanted for the commercial. And so I included that in the treatment. So the idea was, we were going to have Hilda Basi. She was going to mix all of these raw ingredients in a jar, and then the jar spins and reveals the finished hair product. I mean, that was a very beautiful shot, and it was basically going to be the star of the show. I had a clear understanding of how we're going to achieve every other shot, but you see, this particular shot that included the transformation needed a lot of preparation, a lot of ideas on how to basically make that shot happen. And then the first thing that came to mind at the time was to use a turntable. So I reached out to a couple of industry OGs. Shout out to Adiola Fadola, shout out to FedWorks. They did really good in making recommendations on what to use to achieve that particular shot. So Fed recommended that we used a drill, the drilling machine that we normally use in like drilling screws into like wood. That was seeming like a very good idea at the time, but then my fear was, how were we going to have the hand drill rigged to the product and have the product on a platform, because the product was supposed to be on a platform. That was literally the most challenging part of this production. That particular shot, it had to be done, and it had to come out exactly the way it had been stated in the treatment. So a few days to the Reiki day, I stepped out with the DOP, Eddie's Illusion. We went to a few gadget stores to see if we could find a turntable, and we found one. I was super excited to find a turntable, right? But the downside to it was it had a reflective surface. But the art department was going to have that sorted, and we're excited to go home with the turntable. So before we stepped out for Reiki, Ifeoluwa Fatogun, that's the producer of this particular commercial, had sent me a number of options for location. I was after three things in particular. I was after color, I was after space, and then I was after large windows. I wanted it to be like high key sunlight coming into the kitchen, and of course you have like colors around space feels very vibrant, and then full of life. But unfortunately, the spaces that we were seeing before the recce day were either too small or just all bland whites. And of course, there are restrictions that comes with using a location for a shoot. Either you're told you can't paint the walls or you can't nail things on the walls. So there were a lot of restrictions to working with the locations that had been sent. And I had to push further, for the producer to help in getting a space that suited, the things that I was looking out for in the location. On production day, everything was going smooth. Art was doing their thing, light was setting up, everything was, going good. The only thing on my mind from the beginning of that shoot day to the end was that rig, how we're going to execute that rig. Rigging the product to the hand drill and still have a smooth, rotation of the product. It's crazy because the very first, time I started my research on how to execute this whole product, I found myself looking up videos on how to make sure you have a circle divided basically and you get the exact center, because it was important that the product is on the exact center of the turntable. Because if you don't have the product on the exact center of the turntable, you would have a form of wobble, right? When the product is spinning, you would feel or you would see visually a wobble in the spin. It would go off center at some point, come back to the center and all that. So I found myself watching, videos on how to get the exact center of a circle. Basically, I never thought I was going to be doing maths again, but then I found myself doing maths. But we could have the products on that turntable and we get the spin quite all right. But the most important thing for me about that shot was the fluid dynamics while those herbs and oils were in that jar. If we're going to use the turntable, the liquid inside of the jar would not move, would not spin. Reason being, the speed at which the turntable was moving was so little that the content was never going to spin. But using the hand drill meant that we were going to physically see that product spin. And that was what I basically was after on set that day. We employed different methods to ensure that we have the hand drill placed in such a way that we're able to mask the drill in post and still have the jar show and rotate properly. All right, so shout out to Josh. He's a VFX artist. We had the conversation about all of this prior, right, a day to shoot on how we're going to use the turntable or the hand drill. We ended up having to push the hand drill to the back of the turntable, have the product spin on the turntable, match the position, right, of the product on the turntable with the product on the hand drill, and then sort of we took out the product on the turntable just so we could see only that on the hand drill. And then the hand drill did its thing and we could see the fluid motion in the jar. I mean, that was the greatest moment for me on that set at the time, because that was the star of the show. That was what was going to piece the entire beginning and the entire end of the commercial together, and I was really glad that we were able to pull that off. Shout out to every single person. Shout out to 16 Africa. Before I forget, shout out to the Guinness World Record breaker Hilda Bassi. She was phenomenal and she was patient with us all through the entire shoot. Thank you so much. If you've stayed with me this long, please do subscribe to this channel, like my video, and share with every single filmmaker out there you think would love to see this video. More of this type of video will be dropped on my channel here, so I'm sure you wouldn't want to miss any one of that. So please subscribe to this channel. See you in my next video.